So, hello and welcome to the interactive virtual craft fair running from the 23rd of March to Sunday, the 28th of March. And this is hosted by Handmade in Britain. Now, the interactive virtual craft fair is a wonderful mix of live demonstrations, workshops, live chat, but also the chance to buy direct from our exhibitors. Now, this is all happening on interact.handmadeinbritain.co.uk. My name is Alice, and I'm a part of the Handmade in Britain team. And today we are joined by Jack Relton, who is a furniture maker. Now, Jack is going to be doing a demonstration for us entitled Cutting a Dovetail Joints with Traditional Hand Tools. So without further delay, let's pop over to him in his workshop and say hello. Hi, Jack, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thanks.
Good. It's wonderful to see you in the workshop. Where do we find you?
I'm in Walthamstow in North London.
Ah, fantastic. And I'm taking it you're based in Black Horse Workshop, if we can give it away. Well, I tell you what, this is you're brand new to working with us here at Handmade in Britain. So it'd be wonderful just to get to know a little bit about your practice and what you get up to if you're new, to our audience.
Yeah, so I'm a furniture maker. I make wood from solid wood, often milled from London street trees that have been felled and saved from the chipper. And I use traditional hand tools to do most of the joinery, rather than relying on the more modern techniques. So I use tools like these. And today I'm going to be showing you how to cut dovetail joints using traditional hand tools. So this is a dovetail joint. So slots together like so. If you can make out the dovetail here has angled sides here, that means that it's very strong, can't be pulled apart in this direction. So it means that it's a very long-lasting, sturdy joint. And with a bit of glue applied, it's basically indestructible. There have been examples of dovetail joints found in Egyptian tombs, apparently, ancient Egyptian tombs that have survived thousands of years, so pretty good. So the anatomy of the joint is, this is the tail, and these are called the pins. The tail fits between the pins. So these are the pins, are the sort of little turrets that the dovetail slots between. Okay, so we'll get started. I'm going to be joining these two boards together. I've started out a bit of the marking just to speed things up so I can hopefully get things done in time for this session. So first we're going to be cutting the tails, the dovetail. So put the board in my vise. Dovetail saw, it does what it says on the tin. It's a fine tooth saw, specifically for cutting dovetails and other such fine joints. So establish a cut across the board, and then I'm going to cut down on the side that I can see, so I can check that I'm sticking on the line, and then I'll flip the board around and do the same on the other side. Okay, so sawed down to the shoulder line. I'm not sure you can make that out. That's the want to make sure I don't go over the shoulder line. Flip it around. Go down the other side. Carefully sticking to the scribe lines. There'll now be a little pyramid of wood inside the joint because I've come down this way and this way. So now I need to flatten the saw out and take it square down to the shoulder. Same on the other side of the dovetail. Flatten it out. Next, we're going to cut out the waist on either side of the dovetails. So I'll flip it around in the vise like so. Again, only sawing the side that I can see. That's one side done. Flip it around. So now we have the tail. I'll just clean the fluff out the joints with the chisel, and just out of the corners there. Chisel. Okay, so we've got nice crisp corners now. You can see the dovetail shape. Okay, so next we want to mark this shape onto the corresponding board to mark out the pins so that they match exactly like jigsaw pieces. So I'm going to be using this jack plane, all-purpose plane, as a level surface to balance the dovetail board against. You'll see when I'm doing it. So I'll put my pin board in the vise. So that it's level with the side of my plane here. Put this on top, and then I should be able to scribe the exact shape of the tail onto the pin board. So I'll hold this firmly in place and take my marking knife and carefully scribe the outline of the dovetail onto the end of the pin board. Okay. So I now have, if you can make it out, the angled shape of the dovetail marked onto the end of the pin board. Next, I need to bring these lines down on both sides, and then we'll cut out this middle section. So, marking knife again, and a little adjustable square. Love this thing. It's very cute. So find the scribed line with the tip of my knife, rather than so that it physically locates itself rather than just relying on my eyesight. And I'll bring the square up to the knife and bring the line down. And same again. Flip it over. And the last one. Okay, so we now, you can just about make it out, have it marked all the way around, and we're going to be cutting out this middle section here, so that the dovetail can slot into that space. So, back into the vise. Grab the dovetail saw again. In fact, first I'm going to create a little V groove for myself for the saw to sit in with the chisel. So go up to the scribe line and then pop out a little groove to locate the saw more easily, so it doesn't skitter around when I'm starting the cut. And okay, so saw blade into the V groove. Establish a cut across the top of the edge. And saw down. Again. Flip it around in the vise, saw down the other side. Next, coping saw. So we'll go down the saw curve that we've just sawed out, turn it sideways, then we get to saw across the bottom. Checking we're not going over the shoulder line. With the waist. So now we have this. Now this just needs to be tidied up with a chisel to get a nice crisp shoulder line. This is a device called a hold fast. It's like a clamp that you can put into these holes in the bench and hold your workpiece nice and secure when it's in the middle of the bench. Take a slightly wider chisel this time and my mallet, and carefully find the shoulder line with the point of my chisel. My chisel about vertical and chip away the waste. I've only gone about halfway down, so I don't blow out the other side. Flip it around and come at it from the other side. Okay, and I'll just clean up the inside corners again with the chisel. Okay, let's do the first test fit. First, so should have nice crisp lines here to make a nice tight joint. Stick the tailboard in the vise, and then let's do the first test fit. Actually, it looks quite good. Yeah, that's a nice fit. So there we have it. One dovetail joint finished. So like I said, it's an incredibly strong joint. Even before the advent of modern glues, you could use this joint and the furniture would essentially hold itself together. So things like chests could be built with it, and they're going to stay together for hundreds of years, even if the glue fails. And with modern glue, it makes a pretty much indestructible joint. So on my page, I have several pieces of furniture and boxes that feature dovetail joints. I've been very busy chipping away at this bench here, doing hundreds and hundreds of dovetails in the last few months. I've got a series of 6 little trinket boxes, I've called them. They're all very similar, except each of them has a different handle detail. This one, if you can make it out, I've picked out the grain with a gouge chisel to accentuate the grain. So it's got a bit of texture to it. This is finished with a hand plane like this one, rather than relying on sanding, which arguably creates a more cloudy finish. So if you can just about make out, you get a beautiful shimmering surface to the wood with the plane. And it doesn't create any dust, it doesn't create any noise. It's a really elegant process. It's my favorite thing to do. Planing away and shavings coming off, and you can smell the wood. It's very nice. So these boxes, I made the lids quite chunky, quite heavy. I wanted them to feel satisfying in the hand. And we have an internal removable tray for smaller bits and bobs, and that sits on a little ledge inside the box. Got a nice piston fit, slots in, and then the lid similarly fits on top, like so. I don't know how we're doing for time.
We're doing absolutely fine for time. So Jack, that's great. Thank you so much, for going through, your process. It's really lovely to see. And what I noticed, and I can see we've got a question that's coming as well, is you've used a lot of hand tools rather than kind of, power saws or, big sanders, everything like that. How important, is a hand tool to you?
Yeah, so that's something that I've it's very important to me. I'm trying to really develop that side of my work. I think that these tools, they haven't changed much in hundreds of years, for good reason. They're very simple, elegant, relatively inexpensive when compared to their modern power tool equivalents, and just require a bit more finesse. I don't want to offend people, but it certainly took me a lot more time to learn how to effectively use these tools than it did to get good enough with things like power sanders, which are very useful and have their place. And you sand away, work very quickly, but it's a bit of a blunt instrument. Working properly with these tools is a very enjoyable process, and it's important to me that from start to finish, the actual making process, the designing making process, is elegant and satisfying, as well as the finished product being a satisfying, worthwhile thing. It's quite a subtle difference in the end product, but I think it's inevitably, if you adjust the way you adjust your work process, you're going to create work of a slightly different flavour. It's something that I really enjoy, and hopefully other people will appreciate the finished products.
You use the word satisfy. Is that satisfy the design process, or is that satisfied that you are satisfied that it is done, or you're satisfied with the process? What does that word mean?
So it's what I've been trying to do is sort of make the whole process of just conceiving of a design, choosing the materials, actually making it, right through to selling the piece, an elegant process. So if using power tools, which is the usual thing to do, and I've done a lot of that over the years, it's kind of quick and dirty. You have to wear a dust mask and ear defenders. It creates a lot of noise. It requires a lot of electricity. So it's not very eco, really, arguably. Whereas using these tools, I don't need all of that protective equipment on. There's no noise or dust or dirt created for the people in the surrounding environment, and the actual minute-to-minute process is satisfying. It's like, I don't know, it's like riding a bike through the park instead of being stuck in traffic in a big car or something. I'm trying to make the actual minute-to-minute experience of doing the work enjoyable and satisfying, and in the hope that will be translated into the
It's funny, you kind of picked up, the words actually leading to another question, which is obviously eco-friendly. And how does that play in the wood that you use? Because you don't get it from the most kind of usual sources, shall we say?
Yeah, right. So the workshop where I'm based, Black Horse Workshop in Walthamstow in North London, we're lucky to have a timber merchant called Saunders Seasonings on site who has started intercepting trees, London street trees. But I think it's something like 5,000 London street trees are felled every year. There's a continuous cycle of planting, maturing, aging, felling for roadworks, or perhaps because the trees come to the end of its life. The vast majority of these trees are chipped on site because that's the cheapest way to deal with them, rather than heaving these massive logs around. And Bruce at Saunders Seasonings has intercepted these trees because it's incredibly high quality British hardwoods, and he's milled them into furniture grade boards for people like me and the other makers here to use and create worthwhile pieces of furniture rather than just being chipped and burned as biofuel or something, just turned into nothingness basically. The trees get to, you get to give them another life, and if that's in London, I think that's quite I need to think of a different word, but I find that quite a satisfying idea too. These trees that have grown in London, some of them have been around through the world wars, got sort of shrapnel in them, huge amount of history, local history, and then they're turned into boards that can be turned into pieces of furniture, jewelry boxes, which will then have another lifespan of hopefully many years. And sometimes from the people from who live in the same area, sometimes these pieces will be bought by the people who live in the same area that the trees were felled. So yeah, it's much more eco way of working than buying in commercially grown timber from distant lands. Yeah.
It's so, I was just going to say, it's so interesting actually to hear that you can find bits of shrapnel and kind of actually putting into words actually how old these trees are, because certainly for me, I walk past them and sometimes I don't really give them kind of a second notice to think, gosh, how long has this tree been here? So it's lovely to hear that you're using that, and then that lovely kind of full circle that somebody local might actually purchase one of your pieces, and it's from a tree certainly local in the London area. We're coming to the end, Jack, but I do have a quick question. Now you've got your jack blade. Did you name that yourself?
Funny enough, no, I actually didn't. So yeah, this is called sometimes called a jack blade. I think it's from like Jack of all trades, I think. So it's like an all-purpose bench plane. They come in all different shapes and sizes. This is a sort of mid-size one that could be used for the majority of processes. So it's called a jack plane. Happens to be also my name, but yeah.
I hope no one has told you Jack of all trades. So just our final question that I've got, someone just popped in. So on the website that we have for sale of your collection, we've got a beautiful coffee table, sculptural chopping boards, trinket boxes, right through to a desk. What's been a favourite piece there for you to make, and what can we expect to see from you from in the future?
I think probably there's always like the recentism effect, because it's one of the ones I finished the most recently. But the blanket chest is probably my current favourite. I think it's always fun to work on something that's quite large. I enjoyed, and it's got a nice scooped top. So I think I've enjoyed that. You've got the big, massive rectilinear form, and then the gentle curved top, and I feel like they work nicely together. Also, when you open the lid, you get a nice smell wafting out. The bottom's made of cedar wood, whereas the rest of it is made from ash. Cedar is quite resinous and is repellent to moths, which was the logic for using it for a blanket chest. and it also just smells really nice whenever you open it. So I've enjoyed that. And going forward, I intend to just keep doing more of the same. Bruce always has more interesting trees coming in, or more interesting wood coming in to his stock. So I'm still working through the big chunky walnut that I made the big sculptural chopping board and the coffee table out of. So perhaps I'll make something out of them, but I've not decided yet what that will be as of yet.
Well, we shall look out with bated breath to see what happens next. So, Jack, once again, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's been actually wonderful to come into your workshop and see not only where you work, but actually see some of the method, behind the making, and also look at, some of your tools and get to know some of your pieces, as well. So, once again, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.